to see that. I just enjoy every second of it.
The greatest show in college football returns with almost 110,000 people at Beaver Stadium for the Whiteout.
One hell of an unprecedented sports story that could translate not just Penn State, but universal themes, across every fan base.
Saving the Roar, a film that tells the story of the 2012 Penn State Nittany Lions. Two of the captains from that resilient group tell us why they took part in the documentary and why it's so important for people to hear the truth. And they're undefeated at the quarter pole with Villanova coming to Happy Valley. What matchups the Nittany Lions will try to exploit to sprint past the Wildcats? It's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I am Andrew Calissa alongside Jay Paterno, Tom Bradley. Thanks for joining us. First time in program history that the Nittany Lions have had 2 wins over ranked opponents in the first 3 weeks of the season. A big part of the reason they jumped to number 6 in the country in the Associated Press poll. What did you think of the Whiteout, and more importantly, the way they beat back a tough SEC opponent?
I think they did a nice job. The crowd was into it. Auburn, to their credit, did not seem to have a lot of problems operating with that. They got 1 penalty, but I thought it was a tough football game. They made the plays and they had to. And again, in a big game, the Penn State defense stands up to 2 drives, both Wisconsin and Auburn late in the game, with a chance to tie or win the game.
Almost like we've seen that before.
The one thing they're playing is, and it always holds true, is they're playing great red zone defense right now. And as long as you can do that, let them go between the 20s. It's not going to bother you. And just remember this, and people forget this on defense, it takes 3 field goals to beat a touchdown. And I know that very well because I heard that a lot from somebody else.
Game in a second. First, some recognition and respect for everyone involved with Penn State's Whiteout, now known across the nation as the toughest atmosphere for a college football opponent. You guys know that all too well from when it started in 2004. The announced crowd of 110,000. Who knew it would grow to this level, Jay?
Nobody, but give Guido D'Elia a lot of credit, because in the days before Twitter and Instagram and all those social medias, they had student interns in dining halls downtown. They drove a truck around town. They had signs the week before that Notre Dame game in 07 when we went to the full Whiteout, everything. So, give credit where credit's due.
This guy's defensive coach. You got to love it, the noise on your side, right?
It's fantastic. But, you'd always used to love when they'd be backed up into that student section. Oh, this is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Jay, to your point, I love it that, yes, it wasn't Instagram, Twitter. People did communicate before those things did exist. Now we could talk about the game, especially down the stretch. Tom, as the red zone defense remains red hot with some critical stops to preserve the victory.
It's interesting. I think as they continued to play just phenomenal red zone defense and just holding the field goals, getting turnovers down there, they've been very successful with that. And when you're playing great red zone defense, everything else kind of starts to fall into place for you.
Absolutely. Coach, JAQUAN BRISKER, safety in bump and run on a man in the slot. You don't see that a lot. BRISKER says for their red zone D, they have a simple philosophy.
You got to make it hard for any offense in the red zone. And, we got to continue to get better. There's some things that we still have to clean up. We still haven't reached our potential at all. But, that's just our mindset when it comes to the red zone. Don't let the offense score.
The defense more than does their job again, and the offense is very good against Auburn, especially the way they take advantage of their tight ends, guys.
Yeah, Tom, you talked about this little gizmo that Penn State threw in, where they got the tight end lined up as tackle. Talk about how hard that is for the defense to adjust to.
It's known as the Tover formation, and every defensive coordinator is like, oh, not the Tover, but you got to cover it every week. And what they did was, Auburn lined up a tackle over, which means on the backside you had a center, the guard, and the tight end was eligible. And it's a really tough. If you're playing some man, it's tough. But even on zones, if you start flooding and pushing the other way, as you saw in this game, that guy's running clean right down the hole here. And it's a pretty good shot of.
Here's the play right here.
Yep, there it is.
Straight down. That brought the crowd to life right there. They also hit that at a very key point in the game. And Coach Paterno, when you're talking about trying to come up with something in the fourth quarter that the defense hasn't seen, this is one of them that you pull out.
No question. And the question is, do you want to run it early in the game to make them adjust to it the rest of the day, or is it something that you hold in your back pocket? Same thing with the double pass here from Dotson.
Big favorite over their next opponent, Villanova, as they should be. Seems like the time to dial it back a bit. You guys say nope, it's just the opposite. Coach them hard this week.
No question about it. This is one of those weeks where everybody's going to be telling them at the dining hall, walking downtown, how great they are, how wonderful they are. Oh, don't worry about this one, especially now with an Indiana game being a night game next week. So there are things, there were times where Auburn's receivers got behind Penn State's secondary and Nick's couldn't hit them. There were a couple other things offensively. They got to run the ball better. I mean, if they're going to win the games, they have to win down the stretch. They're going to play teams that are better than Auburn.
This is a week you go back to fundamentals. You go back to just the simple rules. You're blocking, you're tackling. And on defense, it's doing everything right. Your angles, your pursuit lanes, making sure that you're getting your stuff exactly the way you want it.
Time for Coach Bradley to hand out his scrap medal, and I'm a little worried about Jay. I think scrap is getting a little soft. Last week he picks a quarterback. This week he recognizes a kicker.
And rightfully so, by the way. Tom, go ahead.
I'm going with the kicker, the punter. Just a great effort. There's nothing better than being a defensive coach and your kicker's knocking them out of the park, and you've got long fields.
Long fields, yards, not points. Am I correct? There is Jordan Stout. He had a couple boomers, 58, 48, 49, some fair catches in there. Small returns, that is what you like to see. No doubt Sean Clifford last week, Jordan Stout this week, both very deserving winners of the scrap medal. Still to come, our scouting report, no chance for Nova in Beaver Stadium. Well, probably. Coach Bradley and Coach Paterno give us some reasons why the game could be closer than you think. You're watching Nittany Game Week. Don't go anywhere.
Tom Bradley's Scrap Medal is sponsored by Team DUI, creating a safer and healthier environment for everyone in the Commonwealth. Scouting Report is sponsored by Penn State Health, giving you the care you want, where you want it. Visit PennStateHealth.org to find a provider near you.
We're back on Nittany Game Week. Yes, Penn State is a 4-touchdown favorite at home against the Wildcats. It's important to respect every opponent. Time for our scouting report. Coach Paterno, Coach Bradley, tell us why Nova Nation has a chance to hang around for a little while in Beaver Stadium.
Well, we've got a big lesson planned for you today, guys. We're going to talk a little about when you're watching games and they talk about 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 21 personnel. You hear announcers talk about, we're going to talk about exactly what that means. Let's start, Tom, with the first box and just show people at home what we're talking about. When they talk about those numbers, there are five skill guys. And, if you have one tight end and one running back, you got 3 receivers. You got to do the math. If you got 1 running back and 2 tight ends,
yes.
You got 2 receivers. You got 2 backs, 1. So we're going to talk specifically about 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers, what you see a lot of.
What you see a lot of, but one of the things you got to remember is everybody, where those guys line up.
Right.
Because a lot of people will take the tight end, put him in the backfield, a running back out of wide receiver, then motion back in. There's a lot of different, it's just because it's 11 doesn't mean that tight end's going to be in the box. He could be anywhere. A wide receiver could be in the backfield. It all depends.
And we'll show you a couple examples here. Here's the first one was trips, where you saw 3 receivers to one side. Now, here you start out in trips. And again, you want to know which guy is which. So this is Derek Williams, number 2 up top. So you want to know where he is. Dion Butler is going to go in motion, and he's going to go from a trip set to a 2x2. And just even with the 2x2, when you look at, if you scout it, it's, okay, now they're in that formation, how often they run, how often they pass. When you're under center, if you took a scout of this group, when they were under center, they were 67% run. When they're in the gun, they're 37% run. So your linebacker not only has to know the formation, but where's the back. So, again, the motions give people problems. You go to the next one, we go from trips to 2x2. Now you get an empty set. Okay, now you've got Derek Williams in the slot, or that could be Jahan Dotson. And now he's matched up on a linebacker and tell me as a defender.
Well, the other thing is, too, now you're looking for all your matchup. The quarterback goes, wait a minute, what's that linebacker doing out there? Why is he out on the slot out there on the running back? Well, it starts to, now all of a sudden, coverage is exposed, and
Yep.
they have a pretty good idea of what you're in.
And the thing about Penn State right now, Noah Cain has shown he's very, very effective in the pass game. Let's take a look at the last slide. Again, now we start with an unbalanced and motion back to trips, and this creates problems because now who's eligible, who's not eligible. A lot like you talked about the Tover formation, you just step a guy off and all of a sudden he's eligible.
And that creates another problem. Now not only that, but one of the things all good, great defenses do is communicate. Well, now you can start watching that defense. Are they talking?
Yep.
Because if they're talking, they're pretty good on defense, and you start to scout them and go, whoa, they're not communicating very well, which gives you a chance to make.
That's all we want to do, Tom, is make life difficult when we coach
I know
up.
you do.
And now you take it and you put now you put a wide receiver in the backfield, and now you're in a two-back set and give it a run game. So let's shift to some stuff on Villanova now and talk about them. A couple things that they do. Number one, let's talk about their offense. They like this. They like the power play. Take a look at this, where they're going to pull the backside guard and pull the backside wing and kick out. Take a look at this one on the video. And talk, Tom, a little bit about what kind of problems that gives you in that backside defensive end.
Well, you know, the thing that gives you the problem is that it's a skill guy coming back around on the second block, not a tackle.
Yeah, and you can see that first guy comes out, and now that backside linebacker's got to find that guy pulling, and he picks him up. And their backs have done a good job. They've done a good job running the football this year, and I would anticipate they're going to try and do that. Now, their quarterback is good. When you bring the blitzes, he's really good at recognizing the blitz and getting the ball out of here, and you'll see when they come, he's going to get the ball out of here. And this is late in the game. They bring a double linebacker blitz, and Tom, talk about
the one thing I like about the Villanova quarterback, Danny Smith will take hit. Danny Smith played some good football for Villanova, and he's going to get rid of the ball quickly, and he's not afraid when he stands in it to stand up to the pressure.
Now we'll talk a little about their defense now. 5-man blitzes, play zone sometimes behind it, sometimes they play man. Here you're going to see that offside linebacker with the blitz coming. The guy he's covering, which is the wing, blocks. Now he's freed up to spy the quarterback. That linebacker makes a nice adjustment to take the back out of the backfield. Again, that's a matchup I think Penn State can win if they're going to get Noah Cain and their backs on the linebackers.
Yeah, just basic fire zone principle. Your guy blocks, you hug, you add to the rush, which creates problems. Now all of a sudden you're expecting to follow. Here comes the 6th guy now, and it's also very good against screens too.
Now we talk about one last thing: defensive end. The way their defensive end does his own read, he comes up the field and makes it a hazy read for the quarterback. Watch what's happening on this one. Quarterback makes the wrong read. They lose 7 yards and the ball, and it's a quick turnover. One of the things about Villanova, they are +8 in turnover margin in 3 games. They've gotten 11 turnovers in just 3 games, and that's something Penn State's got to do. Take care of the football. Andrew, back over to you.
Time to wrap up Nittany Game Week with a goal line stand. When you see the kids in the front row at a game like the Whiteout, it's easy to forget what they go through to get those prime spots. They get there after camping out during the week in Nittanyville. Sometimes special guests will stop by and say hello. For example, Jay Paterno. Check out Jay holding story time with the kids with an original poem. Jay, tell us about your visit.
And look at that sweater. It was a lot of fun. They asked me to come up, and I wrote a little ode to the Whiteout, which if you go on NittanyGameWeek.com under the blog page, you can read the whole thing. It was a lot of fun. That guy's got a nice Red Sox shirt on there, too.
Here are some names and numbers to remember about this week's opponent from Philadelphia. Villanova has some guys to look out for.
Yeah, I think the quarterback we talked about, the running back we talked about, and on defense, Malik Fisher's a 2-time all-conference player in the Colonial Athletic Association. And by the way, Villanova has a 3-game win streak against Penn State right now, going back to 30s, 40s, and 50s.
I'm a defensive guy. That linebacker, Forrest Rain, isn't bad either. He plays pretty good football.
Very good.
The 30s and 40s, I remember it well. Don't miss our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com, which includes these local businesses. Our goal is to build a team in the community that supports the show and that you, in turn, support as a viewer to keep the hometown strong. Did we mention we have a website? We have a lot to share with you. Make sure you check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content. Spend some time on the site to see what we are up to on the show. We finish with some pride picks. Show us your Whiteout spirit. For Jay and Tom, I'm Andrew. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We will see ya for Indiana.